Tonight we're going to talk about 3 different kings. And the reason why we're talking about these kings is because each one of them reigned for 40 years. Now think about it, how exact that is, because when they stopped being king was when they died.
Right.
Okay, so it wasn't 39, wasn't 41, it was 40. God was proving something with these 3 kings. The first one was David. David reigned over all of Israel. And think about what he did. He wrote so many of the Psalms, right? And it is said that he was a man after God's own heart. And he reigned for 40 years and he died. And then his son Solomon, who started out good. But interestingly enough, when he first became king, he asked the Lord, give me wisdom to lead these people. And he was the last king of the undivided kingdom. Of all the 12 tribes, he was the last king. And then they split up. But when you think of Solomon, and of course he reigned for 40 years and died, but think about what he did. He built the temple.
Oh, yeah.
That was a pretty big calling, right?
Yeah.
And then he wrote the Song of Solomon. He wrote Ecclesiastes. And he wrote Proverbs. His wisdom is documented forever. Said he was the wisest man that ever lived. And now the third king we're going to talk about, and he also reigned for exactly 40 years, Joash. Now this is a very, very interesting story. It sounds like something you'd see on TV. I mean it. Have you ever heard of the king and queen, Ahab and Jezebel?
Yeah.
You ever heard of them?
Yeah.
Well, the connotation is always bad.
Yeah.
They were very wicked. And they had a daughter named Athaliah. First of all, I want to tell you about the kings. The tribes split up after Solomon. So you had the 3 tribes in the south that were called Judah and ended up becoming called Jews. The Jews were made up of the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Benjamin, which Paul was the tribe of Benjamin, and half the tribe of Levi. Because the Levites were spread all over. But most of the kings were honestly bad kings. Most of them were evil, and they would lead the people into idolatry. And it says so many times in the Bible, and he did evil in the sight of the Lord. Many times. There were very few good kings. But now we're going to get to Joash. Well, first we're going to start with his father. His name was Ahaziah. And he was a wicked king over the southern kingdom, which is Judah. And he was, of course, a descendant of Ahab. And his mother was this daughter of Ahab and Jezebel. And his mother's name was Athaliah. And she was his confidant. Think about it. She was completely turned over to evil. She was wicked. And so Ahaziah, God orchestrated his death. He was so evil, God just had to get him killed. And he had lots of children. Now you know that it was always a paternal line, so it would go to the firstborn son, right? Well, his mother, his wicked mother, Athaliah, she decided, you know what? I want to be queen. And so she decided, I'm going to have to kill all of my grandchildren.
Oh, my
So
goodness.
none of them can take over my throne. Can you imagine?
What a wicked person.
There you go. She was pure evil. Everyone had to do everything she said. And as her mother and father had brought all of this idol worship, the worship of Baal and the worship of foreign gods, this idol worship, and they had also had destroyed part of the temple. They completely had turned against God, not caring about his commandments or anything. So what she wanted to do ultimately, think about it, she wanted to kill all the seed of David. She wanted to kill the royal line. But God always has a way of saving people who he wants to save. And I'm going to tell you what happened. This is a really amazing story. I'm going to start with 2 Chronicles 22:10. But when Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw her son was dead, she arose and destroyed all the seed royal of the house of Judah. But Jehoshabeth, the daughter of the king, Jehoshabeth would have been Ahaziah's sister. Listen what she did. She took Joash, Ahaziah's son, his little 1-year-old infant, and stole him from among the king's sons and put his nurse in a bedchamber. So Jehoshabeth, the daughter of the king, the wife of Jehoiada. Now Jehoiada was a priest, and it says she was the sister of Ahaziah. She hid him so that he didn't get killed. And he was hid in the house of God. Since nobody ever bothered going in there, they thought this is a good place to hide them. They're never going to come here. They're going up on these groves where they have all these images and worshiping false gods. So that was a safe place to hide him. And he was hid with them in the house of God 6 years. And Athaliah reigned over the land. So basically, Joash's aunt and the priest saved his life. Well, what happens next? Okay, he's 6 years old, and they're thinking, we've had about enough of this Athaliah. So he orchestrates a coup, and he brings together all of the heads of the tribes, and also he gathers all the Levites from the cities of Judah, the chief fathers of Israel, and they all came to Jerusalem. And this priest, Jehoiada, this is verse 3, and all the congregation made a covenant with the king, that's his 7-year-old boy, in the house of God. And he said unto them, behold, the king's son shall reign as the Lord has said of the sons of David, meaning he's a rightful king because he is a rightful heir to the throne. So they planned this coup. Now this is really good. And when Athaliah, this is verse 12, and when Athaliah heard the noise of the people running and praising the king, she came to the people in the house of the Lord. It's probably the first time she's been there ever. And she looked, and behold, the king stood at his pillar at the entering in, and the princes and the trumpets by the king. Okay, this is like a royal inauguration. And all the people of the land rejoiced and sounded with the trumpets, and also the singers with instruments of music, and such as were for to praise. Then Athaliah rent her clothes and cried, treason! Treason! You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
When the Wicked Witch of the West, I'm melting.
Yeah.
This is what's happening to her, okay? Then Jehoiada the priest brought out the captains of hundreds that were set over the host and said unto them, have her forth out of the ranges, for whoso followeth her, let him be slain by the sword. He's saying, get her out of here. For the priest said, slay her not in the house of the Lord. So they laid hands on her, and when she was come to the entering of the horse gate by the king's house, they slew her there. Bye-bye. That was the end of her. So now I want to tell you about what Joash did. So think about it, a 7-year-old becoming king. So that means he died at 47. Yeah, because he reigned 40 years. So what he does, he realizes that the temple is all in disrepair, and he goes, what's going on here? You know, that was his home. And so he went back to the law of Moses and put a box out in front of the temple, put a hole in it, and said, "You children of Israel, start paying what you were supposed to pay." They were supposed to be giving tribute to the temple. And then he hired craftsmen and completely repaired it. And Athaliah and her wicked son had taken all the instruments that they used in there and used them for their false gods. So then they had to make new furnishings for the temple, and he restored all that. But one thing I want to tell you about all this. This is about God in control of everything. No, he doesn't want babies to die. But guess what? Who's the prince of this world?
Devil.
The devil. This is his territory. You know, he used to be called Lucifer. That means light. But he became the prince of darkness when he turned against God. But I want to go back and talk about two other men who survived a mass killing, and that would be Moses. In Egypt, Pharaoh said, "Hey, these children of Israel, they're multiplying too fast. All the male babies have to be thrown into the river Nile, and either they would drown or the crocodiles would have them." Imagine a newborn. Yeah, there's some wicked people. But you know what? His mother, Jochebed, she held that baby, and she tried to keep it quiet for like 3 months. She didn't want anyone to hear the baby crying, because then they might suspect she had a male baby. And when she couldn't keep him any longer because he was getting too old and making too much noise, she made a little ark. It's called an ark. And she made it out of, I think, yeah, she put pitch and tar on it, but she made it out of reeds, I believe. Yeah, and then she put probably put his favorite little blankie in there, and put him in there, and what's interesting, and put him right in the river that was supposed to be his death. He went on the river of death and was saved alive when the princess found him. What I'm trying to show you is just like Joash. They were all going to be killed, but guess what? God saved the one he needed. And there in Egypt, how many babies were murdered? But God was able to save Moses. And what did Moses do after he grew up, when he was 80 years old? He rescued the children of Israel out of slavery and eventually brought them into the promised land, the land that God had promised to Abraham. Then there was somebody else who was trying to be killed. That was Jesus. And Herod said, when he found out from the wise men at what time the star appeared, it had probably been about 1.5 years or so, by the time the wise men weren't there at the manger. They came like 1.5 years later. And that's why it says they went to the house and saw the young child, not the baby. But long story short, once he realized that those wise men weren't coming back, he thought, just like Athaliah, I got to kill that new little baby king. So he killed all the male children in Bethlehem. But once again, God's in control. He had an angel speak to Joseph, and they took him out before this started. So, and just like Moses saved the children of Israel from slavery, Jesus saved us from the slavery of sin, from the law of sin and death. And now he saved us to go to his land, which is heaven. That's not just a promise, that's a guarantee that we will make it there. Some people think that, oh, well, Jesus was narrow-minded. He said, it's only by me. I'm the way. I'm the truth. I'm the life. Nobody comes to the Father but by me. It is narrow. It's called the narrow way. Wide is a way that leads to destruction. Narrow is a way and straight is a gate that leads to everlasting life, and few there be that find it. So for us who found it, we just need to thank God. That's my message.